Somewhere out there, a Navy pilot testified under oath before Congress that what he saw defied physics. And somewhere else, a 13,000-year-old alien satellite turned out to be a thermal blanket. This is the Alien Evidence Tier List. Somewhere in the late 1960s, NASA accidentally photographed what conspiracy theorists immediately declared was a 13,000-year-old alien satellite in polar orbit. A black night. Sounds menacing. Turns out it was thermal blanket debris from a 1998 shuttle mission, photographed tumbling through low orbit. The intercepted alien signals from the 1920s traced to classified US and Soviet spy satellites. Apparently, the aliens chose to broadcast in Cold War frequencies. Tier. Dub Bauer and Dave Chorley confessed in 1991 that they'd been flattening wheat fields with planks and ropes since 1978. Two retired guys with wooden boards dismantled 30 years of extraterrestrial theory over a cup of tea. And the circles themselves? Suspiciously clustered near roads, towns, and pubs. Not remote wilderness, accessible farmland. Almost like whoever made them needed a place to park. Somehow, the alien architects kept choosing spots with convenient road access. Tier. Tabby Star, KIC 8462852. In 2015, astronomers watched it dim by up to 22%. A normal planet blocks maybe 1% of starlight. This was something else entirely. Cue the Dyson swarm theories, the megastructure headlines, the scientists quietly losing their minds on Twitter. Then the infrared data came in. Dust clouds. Ordinary, boring, very non-alien dust clouds apparently wrapped around the star, producing exactly this effect. The thing is, dust clouds don't fully explain every dimming event on record. The pattern is still irregular. The drop-off is still weird. Scientists filed it under probably natural without quite slamming the drawer shut, promising enough to make headlines, explained enough to kill them. C tier. Fast radio bursts. In 1 millisecond, they release the same energy our sun produces in an entire year. 1 millisecond. Astronomers have traced these bursts across billions of light years using the Hubble, linking several repeating FRBs to magnetar neutron stars inside spiral galaxies. So we know roughly what's making them. We know roughly where they're coming from. And yet, roughly is doing an enormous amount of heavy lifting in that sentence. The sheer energy output still doesn't sit comfortably inside our models. Natural explanations exist. They just don't feel finished. Scientists essentially said magnetars probably and moved on, which is honestly the astronomy equivalent of shrugging and leaving the room. Compelling enough to study, explain just enough to ignore. C tier. In October 2017, astronomers detected the first confirmed interstellar object ever recorded passing through our solar system. It was moving at 106,000 miles per hour, shaped like a cigar roughly 400 meters long, and it was accelerating. Not decelerating, accelerating, with no visible outgassing, no coma, no tail, none of the physical mechanisms that should explain why. That's Oumuamua, and it belongs in this tier list. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, who has approximately zero chill, publicly argued in 2021 that Oumuamua's anomalous acceleration was consistent with a light sail, a thin, flat structure pushed by solar radiation pressure. Essentially, he said it might be alien spacecraft debris. Scientific consensus pushed back hard, eventually settling on elongated nitrogen iceberg as the official shrug. The thing is, a nitrogen iceberg of that shape and composition has never been observed anywhere in the universe. So we're choosing between alien light sail and a thing that doesn't exist. Both explanations are uncomfortable. Only one gets you fired from polite astronomy circles. B tier. On August 15, 1977, astronomer Jerry Amen was reviewing data from Ohio State's Big Ear Telescope when he circled a printout and wrote one word in red pen: wow. Honestly, same. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds, transmitted at 420 MHz. The hydrogen line, the frequency SETI had identified as the most logical alien broadcast frequency, and peaked at 30 times background noise. It was narrowband, focused, and originated from the direction of Sagittarius. Then it vanished, never repeated. The VLA, far more sensitive than Big Ear, has pointed at that patch of sky dozens of times since. Nothing. Scientists have proposed comets, hydrogen clouds, even secret military satellites. Each explanation has been quietly dismantled by the original parameters. No comet produces a narrowband, 1420 MHz burst. No hydrogen cloud moves that cleanly. 47 years later, the origin column on the official record still reads, unknown. We built an entire search program specifically to detect a signal like this. We detected it once, and somehow that's where the story ends. Tier. Since 1981, glowing orbs have been floating over Norway's Hessdalen Valley on a near-nightly basis. Not once, hundreds of times. Filmed, measured, and logged by Project Hessdalen's automated instruments, permanently stationed there since 1998. The numbers are wild. The lights pulse at frequencies between 1 and 100 Hz, reach estimated luminosity of around 19 kilowatts, and have been tracked moving from near stationary to 30,000 kilometers per hour. Scientists proposed plasma ionization caused by radon decay in the valley's mineral-rich rock. Compelling in theory, but no one has built a physical model that fully accounts for the behavior, the brightness, or the duration. Norway's been running a 40-year scientific study on floating mystery lights. The conclusion is basically, yup, they're real, no idea what they are. B tier. March 13, 1997, a V-shaped formation of lights drifts silently over 300 miles of Arizona. Not a fleeting glimpse, a slow, deliberate procession witnessed by thousands across multiple cities, including Governor Fife Symington himself. The fact? It took him 10 years to admit he was one of those witnesses. The formation was reportedly a mile wide. Witnesses described absolute silence. Cameras caught it. Pilots reported it. Sightings stretched from 8 p.m. past 10 p.m., moving southwest across the state. The military's official explanation was flares dropped by A-10 Warthogs during exercises at Luke Air Force Base. Compelling, except the flare drop happened after the initial wave of sightings. The timeline doesn't hold up. Symington held a press conference mocking the incident, then quietly admitted years later he personally witnessed a craft he couldn't explain. Your state governor essentially confirmed it, then spent a decade pretending he hadn't. Thousands of credible witnesses, a sitting governor, a military explanation that can't survive basic chronological scrutiny. A tier. Now, if you thought a governor staying quiet for a decade was sus, wait until you hear about 2 fighter jets that couldn't even get close. September 19, 1976, Tehran. A bright, unidentified object hovers over the city, and the Imperial Iranian Air Force scrambles 2 F-4 Phantom jets to intercept it. Standard procedure, except nothing that followed was standard. The first F-4 closes in and immediately loses all instrumentation and radio communication. Pilot turns back. The second gets radar lock, object roughly the size of a 707 tanker, then attempts to fire an AIM-9 missile. Weapon system goes completely dark on approach. Every time the pilot tried to engage, his electronics failed. The moment he broke off, everything came back online. The Defense Intelligence Agency filed an official report and rated it highly credible across multiple evaluation categories. A government agency literally graded it and said, yes, this happened. 2 military aircraft, instrument failure, weapon system lockout, DIA documentation. S tier. Alright, so the Tehran incident showed us weapon systems going dark mid-engagement. Now we're moving to a forest in Suffolk, England, where US Air Force personnel apparently decided to write the whole thing down. December 26, 1980. USAF personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge walk into Rendlesham Forest and encounter a triangular metallic craft with colored lights. They return the next night. Then Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt leads a third investigation on December 28th and records the entire thing on a pocket tape recorder in real time, which is honestly the most accidentally compelling piece of evidence on this list. Halt's team measured radiation levels at 3 times normal background and documented 3 impressions in the ground. Halt himself filed a formal memo to the British Ministry of Defense describing unexplained lights maneuvering through the trees. The MOD received it, logged it, and then apparently filed it somewhere near the bin because no investigation of any substance followed. Britain's most documented military UFO event. Physical trace evidence, radiation data, senior officer testimony, an audio recording, and the official response was essentially a shrug. Multiple military witnesses, radiation readings, a written memo, a tape recording. The homework was submitted. The teacher just didn't want to grade it. A tier. Belgium was running a 5-month open-air UFO conference that nobody organized. Between November 1989 and April 1990, over 13,500 Belgian witnesses, police officers, trained military personnel, and civilians across multiple provinces reported the same thing: large, silent, low-flying triangles with bright lights underneath. Not one person, not one night, 13,500 people across 5 months. Then the Belgian Air Force scrambled 2 F-16s. Both jets achieved radar lock on a target that performed maneuvers registering approximately 40 G. Human pilots black out past 9 G before vanishing completely. The Belgian Air Force didn't dismiss this. They held a press conference and openly admitted they had no explanation. The SOBP's investigation, a serious scientific body, not a tinfoil convention, filed case documents that remain officially unresolved to this day. 13,000 witnesses, military radar confirmation, fighter jet pursuit, a government publicly admitting it didn't know what happened. Belgium accidentally ran the most credible UFO event in European history. A tier. April 6, 1966, Westall High School, Melbourne. Over 200 students and teachers watched a silver disc descend, land briefly in a field, then silently climb and vanish. 200 witnesses. Broad daylight, at a school. Then officials arrived, cameras were confiscated, teachers were pulled aside and told, quietly, to say nothing. Several students were individually warned to keep their mouths shut, which is a completely normal response to weather balloons. No official investigation was ever published. The Australian government offered no explanation. Witnesses spent decades being dismissed until a 2010 documentary gathered testimony from survivors who all, somehow, remembered the same disc. 200 people, daytime, coordinated silencing. The cover-up worked so well that everybody still remembers it. A tiger. Now, Levelland, Texas, November 2nd, 1957. Not one driver, not two, at least 8 completely separate motorists on different roads outside Levelland reported the exact same thing: a glowing, egg-shaped craft hovering low, and then their car engines died. Headlights out, radio dead, complete electrical shutdown. Then the object left, and everything restarted. The local sheriff and 2 deputies corroborated it personally. Multiple witnesses, multiple locations, coordinated electrical interference, law enforcement confirmation. The USAF investigation lasted one day, for 8 independent engine stalling reports across different roads in a single night, which is apparently all the homework you need before closing the file. The thing is, electromagnetic interference affecting multiple vehicles simultaneously doesn't have a weather balloon explanation. A tier. On December 9, 1965, a fireball blazed across 6 U.S. states: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, and Canada, tracked by thousands of witnesses simultaneously. That alone is extraordinary. But then it apparently landed. Witnesses in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania described a bronze, acorn-shaped object roughly the size of a Volkswagen Beetle sitting in the woods, covered in Egypto-style hieroglyphic markings around its base. Not a meteorite, not debris, an acorn with writing on it. Then the army showed up, cordoned off the area, loaded something onto a flatbed truck under a tarpaulin, and quietly left. NASA was eventually sued under the Freedom of Information Act. In 2007, their formal FOIA search for Kecksburg recovery records turned up key documents missing. Specifically, the ones you'd want most. A fireball tracked across 6 states, recovered by military personnel with physical witness descriptions, and a NASA paper trail that dissolves at the critical page. That's not a weather balloon situation. That's a filing cabinet with a very deliberate gap. A tier. JAL Flight 2028, November 17, 1986. A Japan Airlines Boeing 747 cargo flight is cruising over Alaska when Captain Kenji Terauchi notices something keeping pace off his left side. 2 unidentified craft trailing him for 50 minutes. Then a third object, walnut-shaped, massive, appears on FAA radar. Terauchi described it as larger than an aircraft carrier. He filed an official report. The FAA's chief of accidents personally opened an investigation, not something that happens when a pilot sees Venus. The FAA confirmed the radar contact, air traffic control confirmed the radar contact, the military confirmed the radar contact. Then the FAA quietly revoked Terauchi's medical certificate, grounding him for over a year. This wasn't a single excited witness in the field. This was a veteran commercial pilot with instrument corroboration from multiple independent ground sources, tracked for nearly an hour with a federal investigation that somehow ended with the pilot losing his license. Apparently asking questions costs you your career. Ace tier. On November 7, 2006, United Airlines ground crew, gate employees, and actual pilots at O'Hare International, one of the busiest airports on the planet, watched a gray metallic disc hover silently over gate C-17 for several minutes. Then it punched straight up through a thick cloud layer at speed, leaving a clean circular hole in the overcast that lingered for several minutes afterward. Multiple credible witnesses, a major commercial hub, physical atmospheric disturbance you could photograph. The FAA's official response? Weather phenomenon. They announced that conclusion without conducting a single investigation. The thing is, weather doesn't punch geometric holes in clouds and vanish vertically. Chicago Tribune broke the story after a FOIA request because the FAA certainly wasn't volunteering anything. A tier. In 2015, Navy pilots aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt filmed the craft rotating mid-air with no logical explanation for how it stayed airborne. The footage was recorded on FLIR thermal targeting cameras, the same hardware used to track enemy aircraft and missiles. It shows the object holding position against wind, rotating smoothly, then accelerating away without any thrust signature whatsoever. Here's what separates GIMBAL from almost everything else on this list. In April 2020, the Pentagon didn't just acknowledge it, they officially authenticated it. That's the Department of Defense signing off on a rotating craft that violates known aerodynamic principles. The pilots on the radio couldn't keep the sarcasm out of their voices. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. A whole fleet, said casually, like mentioning traffic on the highway. Obviously, the Pentagon authenticating footage of an unidentified rotating craft performing impossible aerodynamics is just a normal Tuesday. Ace tier. Back in August 1951, 4 Texas Tech professors, actual academics, sitting in a backyard in Lubbock, watched a V formation of pale blue-green lights sweep silently overhead. Then it happened again. Then again. One professor managed to photograph it, producing a clean series of images showing a structured formation moving at an estimated 900 miles per hour. Air Force Project. Blue Book logged the case, investigated it, and quietly filed it under unexplained. Then the public report got reclassified. Not debunked, not explained. Just removed from circulation, which is obviously what you do when you have a perfectly boring answer. 4 scientists, multiple sightings, photographic evidence, and a government file that somehow needed to disappear. A tier. In September 2020, a team of astronomers published a paper in Nature Astronomy reporting a phosphine reading of 20 parts per billion inside Venus's cloud layer, sitting at exactly 53 kilometers altitude. Phosphine, the same gas that on Earth is produced almost exclusively by biological organisms or industrial processes. On Venus, a planet with surface temperatures of 465 degrees Celsius, where literally nothing is supposed to survive. And the thing is, scientists ran every known abiotic chemical pathway they could think of. Volcanic activity, lightning strikes, atmospheric reactions. None of them come close to producing phosphine at that concentration, not even remotely. Peer review has been ongoing since, with some groups questioning the detection methodology and others standing by it, which is apparently the scientific equivalent of a stalemate nobody wants to publicly win. The 53 kilometers altitude cloud layer where this was detected maintains temperatures and pressures surprisingly similar to Earth's lower atmosphere, which sounds like a coincidence. It is probably a coincidence. No confirmed life, no spacecraft verification, just a chemical reading that the entire scientific community's collective homework cannot explain away, quietly sitting in Venus's clouds while everyone argues about the data. SSS Tier. On July 26, 2023, David Grusch, decorated 14-year intelligence officer, combat veteran, former National Geospatial Intelligence Agency representative, sat before Congress and testified under oath that the United States government has been secretly operating a UAP reverse engineering program for decades. And then he said they recovered non-human biologics from crash sites. Under oath to Congress, on camera, he cited 40 corroborating witnesses, also with security clearances, also willing to go on record. He described a covert operation so compartmentalized that even senior officials with relevant clearances had been deliberately kept out of the loop. The Department of Defense denied everything, which is exactly what you'd expect them to say, whether it's true or whether it isn't. And that's somehow the most unsettling part of all of this. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Grusch didn't come across as a conspiracy blogger in a basement. He came across as someone who quietly did the homework, filed whistleblower disclosures through proper legal channels, and then sat very calmly while the government denied his entire career's findings. 40 witnesses, sworn testimony, 0 official rebuttals with actual evidence. SSS Tier. November 14, 2004. Commander David Fravor climbs into an FA-18F Super Hornet off the coast of Southern California, expecting a routine intercept. What the USS Princeton's radar had been tracking was something descending 80,000 feet in under a second. Here's what makes this one different. You've got multi-sensor radar confirmation. You've got FLIR 1 footage showing a white oblong object with no visible propulsion, just hovering, then gone. You've got the Pentagon officially authenticating and releasing that footage in 2020, which is the government equivalent of quietly admitting something happened while technically admitting nothing. Then, in 2023, Fravor sat before the House Oversight Committee under oath and said the technology they encountered was, quote, far superior to anything we had. Not a retired guy selling a book, a decorated naval commander, under oath, on the record. One astrophysicist writing in the Times said the footage doesn't amount to much. That's apparently the official counter-argument to Pentagon, certified, radar confirmed, multi-witness, sworn testimony evidence. The most documented UAP encounter in recorded history deserves exactly one placement. SSS Tier. Subscribe to this tier list channel. We're done here.